ghost species DNA. For decades, scientists thought they understood the human family tree. Modern humans, Neanderthals, Denisovans. That was the picture. Then researchers found DNA that didn't belong to any known human species. Not human, not Neanderthal, not Denisovan, something else. At first, scientists assumed it was a mistake, but the signal kept appearing again and again across multiple populations. Researchers began investigating, and for a moment, the mystery seemed solvable. Scientists could estimate when this unknown lineage split from our ancestors. They could trace fragments of its DNA inside living people today. They could even reconstruct parts of its history. Then came the real problem. Nobody has ever found the species. No confirmed skull, no skeleton, no teeth, nothing. It's like finding fingerprints at a crime scene, then realizing nobody knows who left them. Scientists can see evidence that this population existed, yet they have absolutely no idea what it looked like. Some researchers suspect multiple lost branches of humanity may have disappeared without leaving a fossil record. If that's true, then part of human history is still missing, not because the evidence vanished, but because the evidence is hiding inside us. And the deeper scientists look into our past, the more ghosts they seem to find. ANITA upward events. In Antarctica, scientists were searching for particles from outer space. Instead, they may have found something coming from below. The experiment was called ANITA, a giant balloon floating high above the Antarctic ice. Its job was simple: detect ultra-high energy particles arriving from deep space. Most of the time, that's exactly what it did. Then researchers noticed something strange. A handful of signals were moving in the wrong direction, not down from space, up from the Earth. That was unusual, but it wasn't the real problem. According to modern physics, those particles should never have reached the detector. The Earth should have stopped them completely. Yet somehow, the signals appeared on the other side. Scientists checked the instruments, they checked the data, they checked everything. The anomaly remained. And that's when the mystery became far more disturbing. If the measurements were correct, something had traveled through thousands of miles of solid rock, a journey that should have been impossible. Researchers proposed explanations, reflections from the ice, unknown atmospheric effects, even entirely new particles, but none fully matched the observations. Years later, scientists still don't know what ANITA detected, because if those signals were real, something came through the Earth when it shouldn't have been able to. And Antarctica wasn't the only place hiding something strange. Little red dots. When the James Webb Space Telescope began looking into the early universe, astronomers expected to find small, immature galaxies. Instead, they found something unexpected: tiny red objects scattered across deep space. Scientists now call them little red dots. At first, they looked ordinary, just distant points of light. Then astronomers measured them and found a problem. Some appeared far too massive, far too bright, far too developed. According to current models, the universe was still extremely young when these objects existed. There should not have been enough time for structures that large to form. That was surprising, but it wasn't the most disturbing part. Some estimates suggested these tiny objects contain the mass of entire mature galaxies, as if the universe had skipped part of its own growth process. Researchers searched for explanations. Perhaps enormous black holes were hiding inside them. Perhaps extreme star formation was making them appear larger than they really were. But neither explanation fully solved the mystery, because the same question remained: why was the early universe growing up so fast? If the observations are correct, something may be missing from our understanding of how galaxies formed. And little red dots weren't the only anomaly hiding in the cosmos. The Amaterasu Particle. In 2021, scientists detected something impossible, a particle smaller than an atom, carrying the energy of a fast-moving baseball. They called it the Amaterasu Particle. Then researchers calculated its energy, roughly 240 exa-electron volts, enough for a microscopic particle to carry energy comparable to a baseball, moving at nearly 100 kilometers per hour, one of the most energetic particles ever detected. Researchers searched for its source, because particles this powerful usually come from the most violent objects in the universe. But when scientists traced its path back into space, they found almost nothing. The particle appeared to come from the local void, one of the emptiest known regions of the nearby universe. Almost no galaxies, almost no stars, no obvious source, nothing. Perhaps magnetic fields bent its path. Perhaps its true source was hidden beyond the void. But years later, no explanation has been confirmed, because the mystery was no longer its energy. The mystery was what launched it. Somewhere inside one of the emptiest regions of the universe, something launched one of the most energetic particles ever detected, and scientists still don't know what it was. The Baltic Sea Anomaly. Imagine scanning the bottom of the ocean and finding something that shouldn't be there. In 2011, explorers surveying the Baltic Sea noticed a strange object nearly 300 feet below the surface. At first, it looked like an unusual sonar image. Then they looked closer. The object appeared almost perfectly circular, nearly 200 feet across, flat on top, and resting alone on the seafloor. That was unusual, but it wasn't the most disturbing part. Behind it was a long track stretching across the seabed, as if something enormous had struck the ocean floor, then scraped forward before coming to a stop. When the images were released, speculation exploded. Some compared it to a crashed spacecraft. Others claimed it looked artificial. Researchers eventually traveled to the site, and for a moment, the mystery seemed solvable. Samples collected from the object pointed toward an ordinary explanation: ancient glacial rock. Case closed. Except it wasn't. Several members of the dive team later reported equipment behaving strangely near the object. Cameras malfunctioned. Communication systems reportedly failed. Some devices simply went dead, then started working again after moving away. The rocks explain the material, but not necessarily the unusual shape, the long track, or the reports from the divers. More than a decade later, most researchers favor a natural explanation, yet the Baltic Sea Anomaly remains one of the ocean's most enduring mysteries. The Taos Hum. Imagine hearing a low hum every night, like a diesel engine somewhere in the distance. You step outside, it's still there. You drive across town, still there. Then comes the disturbing part. Nobody else can hear it. Not your family, not your neighbors. For decades, residents of Taos, New Mexico, reported exactly that. A strange low-frequency sound. Some described it as heavy machinery. Others compared it to a truck idling beyond the horizon. Naturally, investigators searched for a source. Power lines, factories, industrial equipment, something. Then they found a problem. The people could hear the hum. The microphones often couldn't. Researchers brought in sensitive recording equipment. Many recordings captured nothing unusual. For a moment, it seemed the mystery was solved. Perhaps the sound wasn't external at all. Perhaps it existed only inside the ear. But that explanation created an even bigger problem. Why were hundreds of people describing nearly the same sound? Decades later, reports continue. The hum is still being heard, and no one knows exactly where it's coming from. But at least the Taos hum was something people could hear. If you want to discuss this video or suggest an idea for the next one, leave a comment below.